There we go. So again, this is the Grantseeker info session. Me. All right, so for today's agenda, I've already kind of introduced myself, and I know a handful of you guys are all potential grantees. So I want to go over the new grant cycles for 2022, the grant making priorities, which if you have applied for grants in the past, you know that the foundation in the past couple of years have had grant making priorities. So I'll dive into those a little bit. Go get into our application process, provide you with some grant making tips. And in 2020, our foundation did make some updates to our grant making guidelines. So I wanted to just briefly go over that for everyone. And really dive into what the grant review process looks like. So this is the process. Once you have submitted your application, this is what happens basically. So I'll walk you through that, and then we will touch on key takeaways, and then we'll end our session today with question and answers. Okay. So, overview of the Community Foundation. So, I'm sure you all know this, but I'll just highlight it anyways. So, the foundation has been a staple in the Isabella County community for 32 years now, so since 1990, and we are a tax exempt public charity. And we are really seeking to enhance the quality of life for citizens within Isabella County, not just for now, but for generations to come. And we do this by a few different initiatives. So, we are attracting and holding permanent endowed funds. We are addressing needs through grant making, and then also just providing key leadership on key community issues. And so obviously we do make an impact within the citizens within Isabella County through our grant making. And so I will talk today about our competitive grants. And so we do have a youth mini grant component that does fall under our competitive grants, but I'm not really going to touch too much on that. So if you have questions regarding the youth mini grant, please send me an email, and I'm happy to chat with you a little bit more about that. Okay, so diving into the 2022 competitive grant cycles. So we have 2 grant cycles again this year. So we have one in the spring and then one in the fall. So our spring application is open. So you can log onto our grant portal, and you'll be able to begin the application process. So one of the documents, I guess, that you'll have to fill out that I want to highlight is the letter of intent, or LOI. So these are due the week before, obviously they're due the week before applications are due. So the letter of intent, you have to submit this before you're able to access the application. So the letter of intent is simply, you're providing us with, if your organization is a 501c3, you're providing us with your determination letter, your 990, your most recent 990. And really just very brief touching on your proposal. So what you're looking at getting grant funding for. And I will walk through what the letter of intent looks like in a little bit. But just know that for the spring cycle, our letter of intent they're due May 11th by 4 p.m. And then our applications are due the following Wednesday, which is May 18th by 4 p.m. And the reason why it's 4 p.m. is because if you're having any technical difficulties the day of, give us a call, ask for me directly, and I'm happy to help you out with any of the technical difficulties that you might be dealing with. And then very similar for our fall, the application will open on May 19th. So it's directly the day after the cycle 1 applications are due. So that application will open, like I said, May 19th. Letter of intent, those are due September 7th. And again, the following week, September 14th, that is when applications are due. So if you are having any questions or having any technical difficulties on those days, you're trying to submit your application or your letter of intent, give me a call and I'm happy to help you. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that the foundation has grant making priorities. So a few years ago, the community, the Community Foundation's board decided to do a community needs assessment. So the results from that assessment is where these priorities came from. So the lack of jobs that pay enough to live on, and then crime, violence, or bullying. Those are two grant making priorities that our grant review committee will be basically providing more consideration on. So if your proposal falls within either of those two priorities, then again, there will be more consideration. However, if your proposal does not fall within either one of these priorities, that is okay. We still want to see your proposals come in. Oh, you're good, Kate. So again, as I was saying, if your proposal does not fall within one of these two grant making priorities, that is still okay. We still want to see your proposals. We understand, that not every single proposal that our grant review committee is going to be seeing will fall within these. So please don't let this hinder you at all. And if you have questions on your proposal that you think maybe it does fall within one of these two, but you're not really sure, give me a call or send me an email and I'm happy to answer those and we can talk through it too. So there we go. Okay, so I want to go through a little bit what the Community Foundation will typically fund. So I get calls or emails all the time and people will ask, well, I don't know, is this something that the foundation would fund? I usually direct them to our website because this information is on our website. But so startup programs, these are something that we would typically fund. If it's, addressing a critical need within the community that maybe is not being served right now, that's another potential. Any projects or programs that maybe they don't exist within the community, but your organization sees this need, definitely that's, a proposal that we would like to see. If you're, we love seeing projects that facilitate, collaboration among organizations. So maybe it's iRide and ICRH working together. We love seeing that. It's, leveraging grant making dollars and making a huge impact, which is great. Projects that do not require continuous funding from the Community Foundation. So, we like to see programs and projects, if they're startups, we want to make sure that there is a plan in place so that you're not continuously coming to the foundation to fund the same program year after year after year. And then, of course, capital improvements. I know within the last couple of years, it's been a little difficult. And I know nonprofits have been, just trying to operate. And so capital improvements have been kind of pushed to the back burner. And so, but that is one of the proposals that the Community Foundation could fund. If any questions on your proposals, you're not sure if it's something that would be good or not, feel free to reach out and we can talk about it. So going into what the foundation typically does not fund. So, annual operating expenses, that's a big one. Now we are obviously aware of the impact that COVID-19 has had on organizations. So just because it's something that the foundation does not typically fund does not mean they will not fund it. So just know that going in. Obviously, the foundation wants to fund programs and services that are actually going to benefit Isabella County citizens. And so if your program is going to benefit people outside of Isabella County, that's probably not something that the foundation would fund. Now, annual fundraisers, office equipment, something that should be in your normal line item budget, typically not something that the foundation wants to see. Or would typically fund. The biggest thing, which I don't think anyone on this call it would hit, but travel for groups, so like sports teams or school classes and stuff. Those are not something that the foundation would typically fund. Perfect. So I'll go through the application process, which I do believe majority of everyone here has applied through the community foundation at some point. So those who can apply, obviously nonprofits that have a 501c3 status, schools, churches, units of government. So, the Mount Pleasant Fire Department, the city of Mount Pleasant, the Isabella County Parks and Rec Department. There's a wide variety of individual organizations that can apply. So in order to get started, you can reach out to me directly and we can talk about your potential proposal, or you can just simply log into the grant portal and you can begin your letter of intent. And so that is, you don't have to come to me directly, but just some elements to consider when you are looking at submitting an application is is your proposal, is the program or maybe the project, is it viable? Is it something that you think will be successful in the community? And is there a need for it? So keeping those in mind, one of the other, does the organization know if this person is writing a grant on their behalf? So if you have an intern or you have a volunteer that is applying for grant funding and using your name, your organization's name, please know that you'll most likely, I will reach out to you if I don't know this person. And so we do have a document in place that is in our LOI that I will highlight in a little bit that will negate this issue, which is great. So, we don't want CMU students from a class writing grants on behalf of an organization and then the organization not realizing that this is even happening. So we have a grant assurance document that is part of our LOI. So we just make sure that all organizations know that grant funding is being asked. And then the last one, does the organization have any outstanding grant reports? So I will touch on this a little bit more later on when I go over the grant making guidelines. And you log on to the grant portal and you can access our grant portal from our website. I know a few of you are already a part of the grant portal. I do highly recommend that you bookmark this the login if you can, because it's very easy to get to. So what you'll do if you do not have your organization has not applied for grant funding. So I know that Kate is already a part of the grant portal, or her organization is already registered. But she would simply click on the create new account, and then she would go through the steps of the registration steps for her organization. So she'll put the organization information in there, her user information, the executive director, there's questions regarding your ED, and then a few other additional informations. And so you'll just fill out all of this. And then once your registration is complete, you will then be able to apply for a grant. So it'll take you directly to the apply page. If you are you're already a user in the system and you're not really sure how to get to the apply page, you'll see here, there's a little home icon and then it says apply. Just click on that and it will take you to the apply page and you will see this exact on your screen. So you'll see the application or the opportunity, sorry, for you to click apply, and it'll take you right to your letter of intent. And so this is very simple, what the letter of intent, and I'll go through it in a little bit, but this is what your screen will look like when you click apply. So it'll redirect you to the letter of intent. So it's not a newer form. We introduced this at the end of 2020, but basically it allows the foundation to conduct the due diligence that is necessary before our applicant basically goes through the entire application process in potentially waste their time if they're not actually eligible to apply for grant funding. So on my end, basically what happens is you will complete the questions on the letter of intent, and then you'll click submit, and I get an email in my inbox, and I go through my due diligence steps. I make sure, if you're a 501c3 organization, I'm making sure that you are that you're in good standing with the IRS, that you don't have that basically you're eligible to apply for grants through the foundation. And so I'm just doing my due diligence. I'm saving myself a ton of work, but also you all a ton of work, because if I find out that, oh, you're not eligible to apply, then you guys aren't spending all of your time filling out our grant application and wasting your time. So basically, like I said, once you submit this, then I do my due diligence. Now, once I go through and it looks great, then I will mark it as complete, and then you will receive an email that basically lets you know that you can go back into the grant portal and you can begin your application. Okay, perfect. So this is what it will look like. So simply putting in your organization name. We have some eligibility requirements that we have you review. If you want more detailed criteria, you can click there. It will redirect you to our website. You answer these questions, as I mentioned before. If you are a 501c3, we do require that you upload your letter of determination along with attaching your 990 if you are required to file a 990. And please remember the most recent 990. And the other piece of the LOI that I mentioned earlier was the grant assurance document. So it's a simple document that just assures that the organization knows that a grant application is being submitted on behalf of the organization. So very simple. Now, please make sure if you know you're going to apply for a grant come in the spring, make sure that you get this filled out ahead of time, so that you're not like scrambling and trying to get your board or your ED to sign this off. So just make sure that you think ahead and get this filled out. So then I kind of mentioned, we just briefly touch on what you're looking for the letter of intent. So, what's the project? What is the project focus area? So, maybe it's youth focused, or maybe it's, going to be for arts and culture. Truly just depends. So what is the project's focus? I already mentioned about the grant making. So we ask it here within the letter of intent, and then simply, what is the project description? What are you looking at doing with this project? And of course, the amount requested. We always need to know what the dollar amount is that you are requesting. So one thing I just want to make a note of. So if this is the project you're looking at having done is an $80,000 project, but you're only coming to the community foundation for maybe like $8,000 or $10,000, you will put in the amount requested $8,000. So just know that is what that question is asking. And so once you're done with answering all of these questions, there's going to be a little blue submit button at the bottom, and you'll be able to click that. And I'll be able to go through my due diligence. And once everything is good, then you will be able to access the grant application, and you will be able to start answering those questions. And so this is kind of similar to what the application will look like, and I will go through that in a minute. So I just want to make a note. So when you are answering your questions, obviously the application does not need to be filled out in one go. Your questions are saved automatically. And I just want to reiterate this. Please make sure that you click the blue submit button at the very bottom of the application. I would hate for you to think that you submit, but you didn't. But really, I would just hate for it to be, the day the applications are due and it's 4 o'clock and you just forgot to hit the submit button. Now, just know that I do send out communication to all of the organizations that have a grant application that has not been submitted. So if you're getting a phone call or you're getting an email from me, it's most likely because you haven't submitted your grant application. And obviously we want to make sure that it's not just sitting there for you. We want to make sure you're getting that submitted. So within the application, you're going to have organization information, project details, beneficiaries, budget. So really going in and getting into the nitty gritty of what this grant application is all about. So what are you looking at getting grant funding for? What is the need for this? Like, how is this going to benefit people within Isabella County? I mentioned that earlier, the amount requested versus the total project budget. So if you got $80,000 here, but you have 8 here. Now I want to make a comment or make a mention of this. So as you can see, there is I call it the void button is what it looks like to me. When I hover over the amount requested, you can see that I cannot edit this. So if you need to edit the amount requested or the project description, you have to connect with me directly because these are locked from the letter of intent. So if you come back and you realize that maybe you put an RFP out or your bid came back and it was $5,000 more than what you anticipated it was going to be, reach out to me. I can go in and I can update these accordingly. But just know that, again, you have to reach out to me in order to get these updated. So so you have a lot of questions that we asked. The questions that have, let me go up. So anticipated goal outcomes and measurements, you'll see that there's a little asterisk at the end of this question. That just means that it is required for you to fill, like you have to answer this question. If you don't answer this question, and you try to go and like submit the application, it will not let you submit it, but it will indicate what questions you've missed. So, there's beneficiaries, like I mentioned, the project budget. There's this section. Please know, if you don't know this already, we do have a budget template that is hyperlinked right here. You just have to simply click it. It is an Excel document. If you, for whatever reason, cannot access this off of our application, reach out to me and I can send it over to you. So you'll be able to see what we're looking for. It's very simple. We're not looking for your operating budget. We are simply looking for the program or the project budget. So it's directly linked to the grant application. So what the project is. So please, please, please do not send us your operating budget. That's not what we're looking for. But I typically will see this ahead of time. And if I do see you uploaded the wrong budget, I will reach out just to make sure that our grant review committee doesn't have to shift through all of the operating budget when they're just looking for one specific program or project. So and if you do have any questions when it comes to your budget, please, please, please reach out to me. I'm happy to take a look at it, to answer any questions, and make sure that your total income equals your total expenses. So let me go back to, oh, it helps if there we go. All right, so kind of already mentioned this, just make sure, with your budget, make sure that it's all income is your income and your expenses match. And so if you have questions, please just let me know. You can send it my way before you even submit the application for me to look at. I'm happy to do that. And then, so once you do submit your application, you will be taken to your applicant dashboard. And so this, for example, is Clothing Inc. This was actually taken in 2020. So this is a pretty outdated for this organization. However, the active requests, you will see that they had, at the time, they had one active request for signs, cubicles, and hangers. And so that is where your request will live until it has been marked complete. So if your application does get approved by the Community Foundation, by our board, then you will be assigned a grant agreement and then a grant report. So once your grant report has been received and is marked complete, then your this specific proposal will move from active request to historical request. And I have this all blocked out right here, but this would have your contact information. So for Kate, it will have Kate's contact information, her organization, and all of that information as well. So this is just kind of shows that it does hold all of your historic requests and your active requests. So if you have questions on what you see or you don't see on your applicant dashboard, please reach out to me and I'm happy to help you. Okay, so, oh, sorry. So into the grant making tips, so our proposal summary, we are looking for 1 to 2 complete sentences. And when I say they need to be able to stand alone, I mean, if we have someone from the Morning Sun calling us and they want to know very brief about what this proposal is, it's something that we can pull from your application and we can provide them that information. And then maybe, we connect, we let them know to connect with Kate from Life Choices for more information. We do recommend completing this summary as the very, very last question on your application. And guess what? I moved it so that it's the last question on your application. So again, it's just it's a summary of what your proposal is. And I know it can be very difficult to put that into 1 or 2 complete sentences, but just try your best. So the proposal narrative, really, you just need to hone in on, explain like what specifically are you planning to do, and how are you doing it? What is the need for this proposal? What, for this project, like, is it going to impact the youth? How is it going to impact how is it going to impact the youth? And how are you going to get the impact that you're looking for? Timelines. This is a big one, and which seems kind of silly to me, but please make sure that your start date is after the grant cycle. So if you're submitting a spring application and you're putting the start date as April 1st, guess what? Applications are not due until May. So please make sure that your start date is after the grant cycle deadline. That's trust me, just please make sure that that is like that. So, and then I mentioned this earlier, the balanced budget, total income equals total expenses. If you have questions on your budget, again, send them my way. And always, if you can, submit your application early. So I do, as part of my role here, I do review all of the applications. Now, if you're able to submit your application early, I can go through it with a fine-tooth comb and I can, reach back out to you if I have questions. Maybe I'm not understanding truly how your proposal is going to impact those within Isabella County. Maybe what you provide is too broad and, I would like you to narrow, like, narrow your focus in a little bit. Or maybe I'm looking at your budget and your budget doesn't equal what your amount requested is, something simple as that. So definitely it provides me enough time to go through the applications before I have to send them over to our review committees. So, and of course, if you have any questions whatsoever while you are filling out your application or your letter of intent, please reach out to me and we can get that sorted. So. Okay, so I wanted to make a comment on this just because I think everyone here may have already know this, but so in 2020, the fall of 2020, our foundation did update our grant making policy in regards to outstanding grant reports. So part of my responsibility here at the foundation is getting all of these outstanding grant reports. So we require organizations to complete their final grant report. No later than 30 days after the funding has been spent. So basically the new with the new update to our policy was just grant funding is contingent on the Mount Pleasant Area Community Foundation receiving any outstanding grant report or reports. So you can still apply for grant funding. Just however, if your organization does get approved, you won't see the funding until we do receive those outstanding reports. And if you are unsure if your organization has outstanding reports, please reach out to me. You most likely have already heard from me. So please reach out to me and we can get that sorted. Okay, so I kind of wanted to go through the process mainly because it's been a very common question among our applicants is what happens after I submit my application? Because there's kind of just a waiting period for you all. So what happens is you submit your application and then I will review the application. And so I go through it, I make sure that if I have any questions, I reach out to you because basically I want to make sure that your application is the best that you can submit. And I want to make sure that there are no questions, because if I have questions, then I can guarantee you that any of our reviewers on our committees are most likely going to have questions as well. And so we want to make sure that they are making an informed decision when it comes to reviewing your applications, and they're not making recommendations off of incomplete information. So we want to make sure that your application is good. So basically, after I get done with reviewing the applications, if I get all of my information that I need, I will then forward it on to the representatives of the appropriate endowed fund. So we have multiple initiative funds here at the foundation. So we have the common one, which is our youth advisory committee. So they oversee the Kellogg Youth Fund. And their primary focus is on youth. So any proposals that are going to benefit the youth within Isabella County, they will review and then make their recommendations. So what happens is their recommendations will then go to our grant review committee, and they then review the application as well. And so our grant review committee, they review all of the recommendations from the initiative committees, and then they also review applications, and they make recommendations, and they send those to the board. So our grant review committee, again, will make recommendations to our board of trustees, and our board will then take action. So they decide yay, nay. Our board will take action on that. And so I wanted to make a comment on this for 2022. If you submit in the spring, you will be notified at the end of June. If you submit in the fall, you will be notified in October. So our board meetings happen on at the end of both of those months. So that is when you will be, that's when I will reach out to you. So again, I just reiterated this, or I will reiterate it. I will be the one that reaches out to you either via a phone call or a letter to all submitted applicants. So even if it's a denial, it might be a phone call, a letter, or an email. It kind of just depends on where we're at. And if you are if your organization is approved for grant funding, all grant agreements will be produced within the grant portal. So you will receive regardless, you'll receive a congratulations communication from the community foundation through this grant portal. And you'll be able to log into your account. You'll be able to see the grant agreement, make sure that you review and then sign that grant agreement because it's until we have a signed grant agreement that is submitted, we cannot provide, we can't issue any grant funding. So we need to make sure that we have those grant agreements in submitted. And you will also be assigned your grant report at the same time. And so I already spoke on this, but your grant report is expected within 30 days of when you submit, when you utilize all of your funds, sorry. And again, they are, they will now be submitted online through the grant portal. If you have any questions regarding this, please let me know. We do like to make grant spotlights off of these grant reports. So the more details that you provide, the better, because we want to make sure that we're getting, these stories out. We want to share with the community on what good your organizations are doing and how you're impacting the community. So we want to make sure that we're getting that out there. If you have any photos or video content that you're not able to upload within the grant report, you can send them my way, and I'm happy to include them with your proposal. So, so kind of wrapping up. So the key takeaways. You got to utilize the grant portal to apply for funding. So if you are having any technical difficulties whatsoever, let me know. If you're unsure if your organization already has a account through the system, you can reach out to me, or you can simply go in and you can just create. But it just depends on what you want to do. So our grant due dates are for the spring, it's May 18th by 4 p.m. And then for the fall is September 14th at 4. And so LOIs are obviously due 1 week before. Please know, I think I already said this, but your letter of intent has to be submitted before you are able to access the application. So do not come to me on May 18th and you're like, well, what the heck? I can't even start the application. You have to have your letter of intent due or submitted the week before. So if you have any issues, again, let me know. And just to reiterate the grant making priorities, lack of jobs that pay enough to live on, and then concerns about crime, violence, or bullying. So if maybe you have a proposal that's going to include, maybe it's an anti-bullying program at Shepherd Middle School, something like that. That obviously would fall within the grant making priorities. And so if you have questions on that, please let me know. And again, the grant agreements and grant reports will be submitted through the grant portal. If for whatever reason it's not letting you reach out, we'll help you out. So, but